The next morning, I spoke with my maman, who had been in Iran for about a week to be there for nominee while her hip was recovering. My maman had a smile in her voice as she told me that my nominee was peaceful the last time she saw her. She was no longer in pain from the fall. My maman was incredibly close with her mother, and I wasn't sure how to support her through what I imagined was indescribable pain. Niloufar, you're in Paris, one of Mamanee's favorite cities. Go take her around with you, my maman said to me. One of the many things that I shared with my nominee was a love of travel. She had been to France, Syria, Germany, Austria, Canada, the United States, and more countries that she probably didn't get to tell me about. She always wanted to visit India, and I had hoped to take her there one day. I walked around Paris, imagining her walking alongside me. I imagined her holding her black handbag, its strap resting gently on her right forearm. I linked my hand onto her arm, remembering the tan trench coats she always wore. When I was thinking about where to go for a snack, I imagined her reaching into her purse and handing me a little sandwich she packed and brought with her, a noon sangyak, a Persian bread with feta cheese and walnuts. I took Mamani with me to a modern art museum. I walked through a Basquiat exhibit and looked at how he painted his emotions on large canvases that towered over us on museum walls. I could feel Mamani lean over to me and whisper in my ear, "What kind of art is this? I could paint this. Maybe I should paint this and put it into a museum myself. I could have my own exhibit." I felt my right hand grow warm as if she were holding on to it while being cheeky. I was spiraling through regret for making the stupid decision to report on Iran. It cut me off from spending time with my family in Iran and now from grieving with them. The only moment of brief solace I had was when my sister told me that Mamani had been taking computer classes so she could watch my video reports. I started reporting on Iran only a year before she passed and never knew what she thought of my work. I even learned that she was in a comedy club with other old Iranian ladies. Apparently, they would meet up in her apartment in Tehran, an apartment that my family once lived in, to tell each other jokes. I wish she had shared that with me. To protect my family in Iran, I didn't tell them much about my work or what I covered. I feared that they would get in trouble if they knew too much about my reporting. Detaining, jailing, or hassling our loved ones who remain in the country is one of the key ways that the Islamic Republic suppresses us Western journalists from afar. My Mamani saw so much change in her country. As much as I miss her and wish I had more time with her, I know that this uprising would make her heart incredibly heavy. Of course she'd be inspired by the immense bravery, but I know the images of Iranians being senselessly killed and arrested would pain her as it does me. We both unconsciously hold the pain of others. It's something she passed down to me. It's almost a gift of grace that she doesn't have to keep suffering with her fellow Iranian women. It's our turn to take it forward. For years, I've dreamed of returning to her apartment in Tehran, of living there and retracing the steps we took before we came to Canada. Even though the apartment no longer belongs to us, I know I will go back to it one day. I'll drink tea in the living room from her short, clear glass cups and sit on the balcony early in the morning. When I think of returning to her, I think of the poem Another Birth by the fearless and honest Forough Farrokhzad. I love your hands. I will plant my hands in the garden. I will grow, I know, I know, I know. There is an alley where the boys who were in love with me still loiter with the same unkempt hair, thin necks, and bony legs, and think of the innocent smiles of a little girl who was blown away by the wind one night. There is an alley which my heart has stolen from the streets of my childhood, and it is in this way that someone dies and someone lives on.
You're listening to Books on the Bed, where I travel through the country asking our hosts, if I came to your town and stayed at your house, what books would you put on my bed? Each host will share 6 books for me to carry with me on the journey of my life. And I'm here to share those books with you. As we go, we're building a digital library with every book put on every bed across the country. And who knows, maybe someday, the world. We're trying to share as many diverse stories as possible to part a curtain between us and bring us closer to each other. We hope these books and conversations make a meaningful difference in your life. Thank you for listening and being with us on this journey. She gives me chills every time.
How come?
This was the point of the book, at least from your chapters, where like you have a brief paragraph on like page 7 that felt like a precursor to that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, 8 or 10 lines talking about longing. And I think that for some reason was the chapter that like I started to really feel as a reader, the longing.
Mm.
And part of that was because the dreaming. When anybody talks about dreams, I feel like that, what you dream of, says a lot about where you want to be and where your heart is.
Yeah.
And also like having read your essay about Persian poetry in, was it 2020?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
I think you had a quote where like, poetry is like where home is for you,
Mm-hmm.
For your people. And that just felt like the culmination of that. So I wanted to start there because it just felt like a really important thread in the book, which touches on a ton of stuff, like global history and politics and murder and war and all these things. And yet through it all, you have this deep personal history and a longing to return. And I just felt like that was a really important thing to highlight because the women in your family being such a critical part of even why you're telling this story in this book. So yeah, that was just like a really special chapter to me. And it seemed like a part where you were really like revealing a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that was one of my favorite things to write. Like I felt like I could really honor Momani in that chapter. And it's something I'd been thinking about writing for a long time because it was like that whole thing that I wrote about imagining taking her with me, like that was happening in real time. Like that's what it was. Yeah. And even when I got to this museum, as I was thinking about my grandma, this older Senegalese woman turned around, started speaking to me in French and asking what line we were in. And then she started speaking English and she's like, oh, I'm a grandmother. I'm here by myself. And I was like, wow, the universe is really bringing me a grandmother in this moment. And I told her I've always wanted to go to Senegal. We exchanged emails, we like sometimes pen pal back and forth. And I just feel like
I love that.
That was the day. I was just like walking around Paris, just sobbing. Oh,
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was felt. And I think the first time we even corresponded before I knew I was coming here to interview you, you talked about the grief.
Yeah.
It's like you put this beautiful thing out in the world, but look what it costs you. Mm-hmm. And I think the story with your Momani and not being able to go to the funeral and just the longing then is intensified because now it's no longer just, oh, I miss summers or like, I just want the day to day. It's like, I can't even grieve in a way that's proper, someone I loved so much. So yeah, it was just like a really intense moment of the book. And I felt weaved in a lot of different elements that happened throughout the book with poetry and the women in your family and what the great stakes are when you report on a place like Iran and you're not there and you can't go back and how much that hurts. And not to like start this off on a negative note, but I thought it was really beautiful, like really beautiful. And so, we'll get to more of that. Because first I have to do my ceremonial gift exchange. Well, it's not even an exchange.
No
it's just
way.
gift giving.
No way.
And one of them has to do is related to how much you write about the women in your family, particularly in the chapter for my mom, for your mom, for our moms. So,
oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Well, and then there's another book that even off record, when we were talking about your project in Muskaugen, with boarding schools, that the world aligned for me to share this book with you. So let's see. I don't even know which one I want to start with, and one of these is actually 2. That's this one's
all
2.
Incredible wrapping for people who can't see this. Very skilled.
So we're going to go from the first thing we talked about related to the boarding schools.
Okay, cool.
I got to shout out Andrea L. Rogers, who actually, her episode came out 3 days ago. And she's a Cherokee writer who lives in Arkansas, but she's from Oklahoma. And I found out about this project at Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado, because of doing research from my interview with Andrea. And this is like one of the last physical copies.
Oh, wow.
That they had. Like they made a short run on these because it was an exhibition of art. And it was all about students reflecting on resilience and the connections that their families have to the boarding schools and what happened to their family members. And so you'll see there's like all kinds of art. And Andrea wrote 2 poems about her father, who was in a boarding school. And she actually found out her great-grandmother was too through this project. She didn't know that before.
Yeah.
And also shouts out Elise Bullinger, who's like 20-something and put this together when she was there. So I just thought, because you did that wonderful documentary about recovering, or looking for the remains of children buried at Muskogee, that you would appreciate this.
I really do. Thank you so much. This is so meaningful. And it's such a beautiful title, As Seeds We Grow.
Yeah.
That is so gorgeous.
Yeah. And I know you seem to like art a lot. And so I think the images in here are really stunning and something that you'll appreciate looking at.
Beautiful.
Maybe someday if you're out there, you'll go to Fort Lewis College, which also was a boarding school. So.
Okay. Repurposed as a college now. Wow. Beautiful. Yeah. My gosh. Thank you. I'm excited to look at this.
So that's the first one. The second one, actually, we're going to go to Canada and poetry.
Oh my gosh. This is crazy.
You might have heard of her. So
Let's see.
Shame on me if you have.
Oh, Marie-Andre Gill. I actually don't know. I don't know her.
So she's from, I know you did a French language program in Quebec.
In Chicoutimi, yes. A town 5 hours north of Montreal.
She's from like an hour from that university.
Oh, wow.
She's an Indigenous poet. Marie-Andre Guy, Heating the Outdoors is actually translated by a friend of mine who was on Books on the Bed earlier this year, who is the executive director at Saraban Books. And that's how I found out about her at first. And then I eventually read the other one and thought I'd get you both of these because of that connection to a pretty obscure place for most people in Quebec.
Oh my gosh, thank you. This is
You're
so
gonna love
cool.
Her. You're really
can't
gonna love
wait.
Her. She's incredible.
Oh yeah, Lac Saint Jean. Yeah. Yeah, we were very close to Saguenay, exactly. Wow. This was the only place I'd been to in Canada where we were in a university town there for the summer, but it was the first place I'd been to where I was like, I'm the only person of color.
Yeah.
Because there's so much mixing, but not in Chicoutimi and not back in the day.
Yeah.
Gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
So I think you'll just recognize the feeling of what she's writing about, the landscape.
Yeah. And now I have to go find her poems in French too, so I can.
Yeah. I wish I could. I was a horrible French student in college, I regret not taking it more seriously. So I'm like, oh man, I could read.
I loved it, but I was the only Anglo kid in all of my French classes in university. And so I felt so ashamed having this accent. And that's why I went to Chicoutimi that summer, because I was like, and this program was intense. If you spoke English 3 times, you were sent home. They were intense in a great way.
I was a former academic advisor. And so I was looking at the program like, wow, all right. Yeah, I would have been out immediately. I mean, by the grace of God, I got through 4 semesters of French at Michigan. But also, as part of it, I was embarrassed of it's a really difficult language to speak.
It is.
And to sound like you know what you're doing. And so anyway, yeah, you're really going to love that. You should find it in French.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
And this is the last one related to...
Really, you are such an elite gift wrapper. We need to highlight this.
Well, I appreciate that. My reputation is growing across the country. Soon to be international with my wrapping skills.
Yeah, all the way to Canada. Exciting. Oh, wow.
Have you heard of this?
I've heard of this. I've been wanting to read it, actually.
Yeah. So Naomi Shihab Nye actually put me onto this before it came out earlier this year when I was in San Antonio. And it wasn't a book on the bed, but it was one that she wanted to mention because it was coming out and someone had told her, hey, this, minister in West Texas is writing this memoir about Palestine, Daughters of Palestine by Layla King. And especially at the beginning, just the idea of, you talk about the name change in your family and being a knowledge seeker.
Yeah.
And just a keeper of stories. And, you were a kid and had a recorder. That's Layla, her grandmother specifically entrusted her with so much of this because she was just such an eager to listen kid.
Yeah.
And I think, from what I've gathered reading and watching your work, it seems like you are too. And, so you and Layla, I think would, if you ever wrote a memoir like this, related specifically to family, I think it would be as good as this one.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you so much. This is so incredibly thoughtful. I'm like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. This is beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy.
I will.
I think those will be.
Oh my gosh. I will report back. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I just like sharing books that I find out about through this project or on the road, or, and I really just try to get down to the heart of like who I don't know you before I know you, but I try to just listen best I can and see what resonates. And those were the ones that just kept coming back. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was a list of like 40 books. And then I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
You got to cut it down. Like, you can't give her this many. Because there's a lot of different ways I could have gone. But I was like, poetry.
Yeah.
Women in a family. And boarding schools. Those were the ones that just kept coming back.
Amazing. I can't wait to dig in. This is so cool. Thank you.
So, and the reason I give gifts is just because it means the world to me that you all write these books and I get to read them. And then we get to do this together. I mean, it's pretty rare now.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking about this walking here. All of the things that have had to happen in the last 34 years of my life to be here with you right now. It reminded me of this moment. I was with this teacher interviewing her in this old courthouse in Appalachia, in Silva. And both of her and I were looking at each other like, it's kind of crazy that we're here. How? And so when I was walking here, I was just like listening to music and taking in the sights. And I was like, how lovely it is that you and I are alive at the same time.
Yeah, that's so special.
And that we get to do this together. And really, it's just what luck.
Yeah.
So this means the world to me. And I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so sweet.
So
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, about your book, I did want to talk about a couple of things before the book's on the bed.
Okay.
Because I do want to highlight the fact that you wrote, and I will put this on record, my favorite nonfiction book of 2025. Not that my opinion matters all that much. It should, because I'm a really good reader and I read a lot, probably more than all of you listening. So you should trust it. But truly, I mean, I cannot keep this book on the shelves.
Oh, wow.
It is beautiful. What you and Fatemeh did was, I mean, just exceptional. And I commend you for it. But there were a couple things about this book that I want to discuss. And the first one is the relationship with poetry and yourself and really your people. Because that Between the Lines piece was really good.
Thank you.
Are you going to write that book?
I don't
about
know.
Persian poetry, or is that just like something you thought about during the pandemic?
I mean, I was working on it. I had a proposal. I was workshopping it, working with my agent Julia on it. I hope to return back to it. But sometimes I think like I have to think about who I want to write it for, because I have it's such an emotional cultural tie for me. And part of me also thinks like, I feel like I need to become because I'm such a nerd, I need to become like a real student of poetry to write this. Yeah. I have an emotional expertise in this. I don't have a literary expertise in this. And I feel like I need that. Okay, fair enough. Because you wrote about, what is the term for masters? Ostads. Yeah. So one of my ostads in that piece, actually, Monir Taha, unfortunately, she passed this year. Oh, no. And I think that's also why sometimes I feel in my other ostad that I write about, Ahmad Karimi Hakak, he's in an assisted living facility. I'm supposed to go visit him when I'm home in Canada because he's in Washington State now. Mm. And it's like we have such time as a non-renewable resource. Like we don't have enough of it. And I just feel really indebted to my ostads. I'm like, after Ahmad goes, like, what do I do? Like, he's my stand-in grandfather. So I feel a deep responsibility to write it, but I also feel like I needed more, I'm almost like, I need an MFA in Persian poetry to write this book. Yeah. I need to study it more. But it's a good start to love it as much as you do, because that really came through. But I want to talk about it in relationship to For the Sun After Long Nights. Yeah. Because, I mean, it kicks off with poetry, and it's everywhere. And really just, the role of books. Yeah. In bookstores and art and singing in protest. You wrote that our home is in our poetry. And this is especially true for those of us who can't return to Iran easily. And then you talk about the Hafez divination, which I found to be like, now that I know you're witchy, like, hey, let's read into this. And in the one poem, I long to open my heart. For my heart, do my part, right? And that translation. But can you talk about how your
love of poetry, your country's, your people's love of poetry, why it plays such a big role in this book about the woman life freedom movement.
Yeah, poetry is central to everything we do. It's how we express ourselves. Our language is very poetic. Like Persian is a very lyrical language. If I if I missed you and I wish you were here, I'd say Jai Shoma Khaliya, your spot is empty. Like there's just so much of that. The introduction was maybe one of the last things that we wrote. And I think we were trying to think, okay, what are the themes? And we had to really just take a step back and think about what are the themes here. And the themes clearly in this movement were expression, people getting killed and detained just for expressing themselves, and thinking about the tradition of verse and how long, the history of that with Iran. And I think for me, Persian poetry provides me a lot of comfort, because I'll look at Hafez. He's a medieval poet. He's writing about these rulers, these clerics that act pious, and then they go home and they sin, and this double standard of rulers, which is completely connected to the Islamic Republic today. And I think Hafez would be writing the same things. And so when my job involves looking at a lot of graphic imagery, following the news, continuing to follow Iran, which seems like the news gets worse and worse, like my comfort that things might get better is to think that Iranians have existed for centuries. We have been writing for centuries, and we will continue to outlast whatever dark period. And that's where I feel like it's my home. And I think for a lot of Iranians, we can recognize that too.
Yeah. It was so powerful for you to reach back in long history, because I think so often we think, we need contemporary writing about these issues as if they're fucking new.
Yeah.
This is the thing that always kills me. Like, this is unprecedented. No, it's probably not. I mean, some things are. Mm-hmm. That's why it's a word.
Right.
But, when you look at war and, monarchies and, like everything that happens in this book, well, of course it's happened before, time's a flat circle type of stuff.
Right.
But it's like so interesting to find comfort in someone who's long been dead, as opposed to even a peer that might be writing. But there's something there that it feels like, how could you find comfort in someone that's writing in reaction to something, happening now, which you have to do.
Yeah.
As you said, you've even tried to go more to the forensic analysis with video to make it more about just like, this is the most, there's no objective approach, but I'm just looking at what I see, because that emotion is totally there. But yeah, it was really powerful to see. Even the moment, oh my gosh, I wish I would have remembered the name of the 9-year-old that was killed.
Keon, yes.
Keon. Oh my gosh, I think about this moment all the time.
Yeah.
But his mother at the funeral with security forces says this poem, "What is a supreme leader? He has a beard that reaches his chest. His chest is full of hate. His heart is like a piece of stone. All of his words are bullshit." And then they try to silence her, and she keeps going. "We are a great nation. We will take Iran back."
It's like powerful, even doesn't even feel like the right word, but it's just like, this is how we express ourselves, Iranians have been dealing with censorship for centuries, even before the Islamic Republic, during the Qajar times, all of that. And so we've kind of, I think, my take is we've learned to speak indirectly to each other. Because you can't write an op-ed in a newspaper and say, "I hate the supreme leader," but you can put out an address to your followers in your Telegram, and then end with a poem of Hafez that's all about, so it's like, it's a very referential type of speaking.
Well, I wanted to ask about that because, the way that this book could have been bad, like if it weren't structured perfectly, this could have gone sideways. Like there's a lot of books that try to do this. Mm-hmm. You and Fatemeh and whoever helped you craft this did it masterfully. But I was thinking about all the other ways you could have gone, but I'm it was perfect. And the conversational piece of the poetry and all the ways in which even just your nonfiction personal writing references the poetry unintentionally, maybe even. Yeah. It's all connected. It's just one long thread. And so it makes so much sense. But I'm curious why you chose to, it's not like you had a poem just at the beginning as part of an epilogue or anything. how did you come up with that structure to keep including all of these poems throughout the book?
Even in the proposal, we did that. Like, even when we wrote the proposal and we had a sample chapter, each of our sample chapters started with poetry, because this is something that, thinking about how to bring Iran to people who can't access it through language or can't access it because they can't go there. Like, we're able to show, to bring to an audience, these are the actual poems of the students groups that were there. So that's like a part, like, I feel like it was intentional in that way, is just thinking about how we can platform voices, and like we really just are vessels for other people's stories and experiences.
Yeah.
And poetry plays such a part in that, like the protest chants rhyme. There are some old ones. There are some, ones that will touch on different identities. And for this, it just was so beautiful every time you had like specific student groups. There's such a rich history of students and organizing in Iran. But yet bringing their words and translating them and bringing them to this audience felt like this is something really unique that we can do, that we're uniquely placed to do. But it wasn't even intentional in that way. We were just like, this is how Iranians think.
Yeah.
And so we just approached it that way.
I like that. It did feel like I was in the mind of a completely different group of people. I mean, I could never imagine any like US-based like families from Iowa writing this, because Americans don't think in poetry.
No, I mean, we all do. Yeah, it's crazy.
Right. And I think like that idea of even your language is beautiful. I mean, like when we were telling stories earlier, it's like sometimes I'm always worried because I just speak 7 stories in one. Mm-hmm. And I might not even say things that are like seem relevant. Like a lot of our cultures get to the point, don't say something that's most beautiful, right? Or in a roundabout way, just like get to it. And so I'm just thinking like even in protest, like, like poetry is not the first thing that comes to mind if you're on the streets in even Asheville, like an art city. Yeah. And so it was like so interesting to be like, oh, wow, this is just so natural.
Yeah.
None of that was forced. And I think that's what made it beautiful, is because like literally this is how you're going to bring this movement to people like me who, I mean, like honestly, there's no, this crazy this book got to my house, Mm-hmm. But then I understood why, because this is a way that you can reach people that otherwise wouldn't even know what's going on there, because a lot of us are pretty ignorant to global issues in general. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it was just like, and there was one particular turn of phrase that I was like, I can't believe. I will make myself so small that I will follow the dust of your footsteps with the tips of my eyelashes.
Yeah.
What?
I know. Hafez, like, we speak to Hafez as if he's living. Like, if I am opening up Hafez, like, we'll say, Hafez is Shirazi, this is my problem, whatever. But it's like, it's such a incredible visual, like you can just see yourself in that moment.
Yeah.
Like it's one of my favorite lines. Actually, when you walked in, that calligraphy of poetry, that's the line of that is in that calligraphy. That's how much I love it.
It's
crazy.
I was dumbfounded reading that. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's poetry. That's how you use words. But it was interesting though, like thinking about even that line, like, I will make myself so small that I will follow in the dust of your footsteps with the tips of my eyelashes. I mean, it's crazy, but it also references some elements of your stories in the book about making yourself small.
Yeah.
And the way in which Iran as a culture has this sacrificial element of like, you sacrifice the self for others and community. And then like seeing this whole divination process, and that's the like these poems that come up. That was like an interesting parallel to see like how even the poetry references that.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so the poetry is a big part of this, and there was another element that I wanted to talk about because as you read in the introduction, I thought the family history was really something, and in particular what your mamani left you. Mm-hmm. The issue of
Zanaruz, modern woman.
Yes. That seemed like a really big moment for you, because throughout that chapter and really throughout the book, I mean, you're longing to go back, but really what you're longing for are these stories, these connections to your family's past and history. Can you tell that story and why you included it in this book? Because I think, I mean, it's really, really a powerful moment of like getting closer to where you wanted to go in terms of that connection to the home country.
Yeah, I wish I had pulled out the newspaper. I'll show it to you after.
Oh, please do.
But yeah, when my grandmother passed, she left me. She left us all a little bit of gold. So I wear this bangle. My mom used to wear this, and she left me this newspaper. And I had heard, like, this was a story that was passed down from my family, that your Mamani's mother was widowed young, and she had 9 children, and she was awarded a Mother of the Year award. Like, that's very cool. And then this newspaper that was left to me described that story because no one really knew it in a lot of detail.
Yeah.
And when I got this newspaper, it was so amazing to have such history and seeing like all these old ads and all the typeface. But I can read Persian at like a 3rd grade level. It would take me a long time to read this newspaper. So I had one of my friends who's a professional translator come sit with me, and he would read it to me, and I was just taking notes. And this was years ago. This was after she passed. And so I wasn't sure what to do with it. But even as he was reading, he started crying. He's like, did you know that your great-grandmother was the midwife for her last child? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's so emotional. And I remember, I was like, I met Dai Firuz, like this, my mom's uncle. Like, I know who this is. I can't believe this man that I met at this Persian party in Tehran years ago was brought into the world by the hands of his own mother while everyone else was asleep in the house.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And so again, and she writes about it, you know, her experience is so matter of fact. Oh, and then I put my hands on the wall, and then I pushed until it came out, and then I took out the placenta and I knotted the umbilical. Like, it's so matter of fact. And I feel like there's such a stereotype of Tabrizi women being very like direct and like no mas. Like Shirazi people are very, very cool. They're very laid back. It's the home of poets. Like Esfahani people, they really welcome you into your home. Like there's every place is a stereotype. Tabrizi women are like direct to the point. They don't mess around. And that read to me like a Tabrizi woman.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an incredible story. I mean, I was like, my jaw dropped reading that. But I thought it was an important point where you even mentioned just how much it meant to see the words like exemplary Tabrizi.
Yeah, because anytime people talk about someone from Tabriz, they'll be like, oh, you're a donkey, stupid, you're provincial. There's all these jokes, like little jokes about people from Tabriz being the butt of jokes. Like that's all I've heard growing up.
Yeah.
And so to see her described as an exemplary Tabrizi was very moving. I never saw that. And for me, like I come from such a 1-800 boring, non-Googleable Iranian family. So anytime I'd ask about ask my dad, what did your grandfather do? What did his grandfather do? He's like, they were bazaris. They traded lumber. He's like, nothing cool. I was like, well, what about Tabriz? There was a separatist movement. He's like, none of our family was involved in that. Like, no one's political in our family. And so, yeah, I guess I really ruined that for everyone. But, my bad. But so, yeah, like for me to see, like, there's no way I can Google about my family. There's no way I can learn more. I can just learn more through my living parents. All of my grandparents have passed. And so this moment was like, this is the only public record of my family. And how amazing that the public record of my family is enshrined through strong maternal lineage. Like this felt super powerful. And even that article, it wrote about how her daughter, Alam, my grandmother, Mamani, and has a young daughter. I was like, that's my mom. Like, it was just, it's so, I like cry thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, get emotional.
Like, I can even see you talking about it. Like, the body language changes.
Yeah.
And you read it that way, too. Like, the pride.
Yeah.
And, even like with the weaving and the things that the women did to make up for the economic losses of the men.
Yes. Yeah.
With, tobacco, right? Wasn't that the situation in the family where, like, they lost everything and the women say, hey.
Yes. So
here we are.
All I heard, and then I'm trying to find out more about my parents' lineage. So this was my mom's mom's mom. So then I asked, hey, Mom, what happened on your dad's side? What did your great-grandfather do? She said, oh, well, he was super wealthy. He worked in tobacco, and he came home with wheelbarrows full of cash. Something happened. I'm not really sure. I'm not really into politics. And then he lost all his money, and that happened. And that's something that she told me in passing, and which is just like, I don't know if this is like a generational thing, but I just feel, and I don't know if it's because like throughout my life, I get these drips of information and then I go research them. And perhaps that's why I'm a reporter, because I've been And this is the path they have created for me by not being forthright. Like maybe if they were forthright, I would be like a lawyer or something, and like we wouldn't be doing this. Like who knows?
You're like, I already know everything there is to know, so I don't need to ask questions.
Exactly. And so once I started researching it for the book, I started researching about, well, when was the first contemporary women's movement? When was the first time that there was any type of popular movement? And it all went back to the tobacco concessions in the time of the Qajar monarchy. This was really the first time there was a nationwide movement in what was then known as Persia. And this was because this was a time when Britain and Russia were fighting for influence in Iran. The tobacco concession specifically was part of, it's just crazy if you think about it today. It's very colonial. If you were an Iranian tobacco farmer, you had everything belonged to Britain. So you had to farm your tobacco, sell it, and then buy it back and sell it to your own people. And so, yeah, when people talk about, oh, well, who was Iran colonized by? I was like, well, we were never an official colony, but look at this is an example of colonialism, is it not?
Yeah, the deal that was made, I struggle sometimes with remembering names when there's a ton in a book.
Like the Reuter concession, just giving all this away, signing away land after
Russia
wars.
Together, against Britain for because you're getting the best deal for you.
Exactly.
And your people are screwed.
Yes, exactly.
And again, that is a tale as old as time.
Absolutely.
But what was really important in this book is like even thinking about you having the courage and strength to write it with Fatemeh, like look at who you're following.
Yeah. No, it's really meaningful. Like it's just, again, like weird things like I didn't expect to write about. That's all I knew about my great-grandfather. But once I read about the tobacco concession and I was reading all these academic journals and I called my mom, I said, Mom, like, is this why you all lost money? And she's like, that's exactly what I told you. And I was like, you actually didn't tell me any of that. I'm on JSTOR looking at all these old PDFs, Mom. This one has nothing to do with you. And so then she was like, well, let me call someone else in the family and see if I can get you more details. I was like, well, how did you ever make money again? And then she started reaching out to other people. And then I said, well, what was his last name even? Oh, it was Haj Hosseiniov. I said, that's interesting. Why did your dad change it? I'm not sure. Maybe he just didn't like how it sounded. And I don't think like the lineage and the history to our people, like, I wish my grandfather was alive so I could ask him why he changed it, but it feels so intentional, right?
Yeah.
Change his name from Haj Hosseiniov to Danishpoy. Danishpoy is not a real name. It's Danish for Danishgah for knowledge, to Poy for seeking, knowledge seeker. That's what he created. That was the lineage from my mom's side. So
yeah, and then like you even at the end of that chapter try to reconcile like, gosh, I am a knowledge seeker.
Yeah.
Like that, even though that's not like the given name, it's definitely part of who you are. And at the same time, though, it's like, okay, but what's lost in that name change?
Yeah.
I mean, naming Nilo Tabrizy, like all of these associations or like feelings that are associated with names and pronunciations and all that. Like it's a very prevalent theme throughout the entire book.
Absolutely.
And what it means to be from a certain region. Yeah. And so like, do I hesitate to share, like all of this. But then that part of that chapter was like, oh yeah, literally change the name. You don't just do that.
No, again, it's very intentional. It's very interesting. And then to think about how my great grandmother and her sisters, they set up a maison, like a sewing house, and they made clothes and she employed lots of people and made dresses for women in town. And then I really felt like the presence of my ancestors, really felt that. Like I really felt this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm being a knowledge seeker. I'm asking all of these questions and being very direct in a very indirect culture. And then I'm kind of putting things together, sewing them and trying to make sense of it, which is just
You
crazy.
are an anomaly in many ways, like the contradictions between like what you're trying to do and where you come from.
Yeah.
Like it's like, they're probably like, be quiet. Like, I don't want to answer this.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting.
You're asking too many questions.
I think, yeah, definitely.
No one's ever asked this before. Can't you just accept it? It is what it is.
Yeah. And I'm like, but that actually makes no sense. And so anytime I would push back on something, I would say like, you guys brought me to the West. And this is why you brought me to the West. And it's interesting, the more that sometimes it's very Iranian to me, like, I don't want to ask my parents this, maybe they'll feel some type of way. But if I just push against that and ask them something, like, they do open up. Like, they are really ready to talk. It's really beautiful. Like, I'm very lucky in that way.
That's where I was wondering, like, because your relationship with your family is so strong.
Yeah, I love them.
And you say I wouldn't trade them in any lifetime, which not a lot of people don't have that feeling about their families. That's really special. Mm-hmm. But it's like, then, okay, I have enough trust in this group of people that like, yeah, maybe I can push it a little bit.
Yeah.
And let's see where it goes. And I mean, I think it's like a lot of folks that are resistant to, and I've had it happen before. Like, you'd be surprised how many Vietnam veterans will actually talk to you if you sit with it long enough and like if you approach it the right way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look the same with all of them.
Yeah.
But this idea of like, it won't happen, like they won't share. It's like, well, did you ask?
Right. How much of that fear is your fear?
Right. And feeling like, oh, I've run into a lot of roadblocks in my life, but it's not different than being a journalist.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to have this perseverance in getting to the truth. But one thing that you were talking about with your ancestors, this is just how my mind thinks, but Michaela, mm-hmm. one of the graduate students who you were with at Muskaugen. Again, it's really been on my mind because I've interviewed quite a few Indigenous authors recently, going up to see another one in Canada next year. Just got that news from her today, which is cool. All of them, related to the horrors of the boarding schools. But I saw you reflected in Michaela. Mm. And there was two particular things that she said. There was something in me that was telling me that this was something I had to be a part of. The equipment is actually quite heavy. It's kind of representative of helping to shoulder some of the weight from those communities. And then it's in our traditional belief that our ancestors are constantly walking beside us and with us to give us strength. We turned a corner and there was the boiler room. The boiler room was used as a way to get rid of some of the remains and children. It was difficult, but I also needed to understand, as a granddaughter of a survivor, what she went through. We're supposed to be these objective scientists, but there are moments of emotion. Sometimes they're joy, sometimes they're sorrow, and everything in between. Underneath that grief and everything, you can sometimes feel relief. And like that language even that she's using reminds me a lot of what, you feel compelled to do this despite the cost.
Yeah. Like
she's going to go now and have to see the scanning of like, these are dead children. My grandmother went to this school, like it's a really hard thing to face. And you've had to do that reporting on Iran. And so I felt like there was a really strong kinship there just with why both of you felt the need to do these really hard things. And I know that you've had this question of like, well, why do I turn to poetry? Or why would I do this if I have all this grief? Mm-hmm. And so, she's talking about why she would do it, but I am really curious just on the whole. You could have done a million things and been really good at it. You're smart. You're a great journalist. You can write well. You could have just left this alone. You still could. What is it that pulled you and keeps pulling you back to writing about this despite the cost? Like, why wouldn't you just go the other way and do something really well that doesn't deal with all of this pain and grief?
I just couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. It's like when I would read about Iran as a kid, like the first book that I read was Persepolis. Amazing. Like beautiful. It's just like very powerful. But the first, like one of the first passages I remember reading in the graphic novel was her saying, I grew up with the stories of torture in my family. My uncle was tortured by he was in Tudeh. He was tortured because he was a communist. And I just felt like I don't even fit here because I don't have stories of political torture in my family. And like where do I fit as an Iranian? Like I just didn't feel reflected in anything. And I feel like it doesn't feel great to open up yourself and put it into a book. I would say like every day I have a vulnerability hangover, but the thing that makes it worth it is being in touch with people that are like this happened this last week in our book launch in London, seeing two young Iranian women who were protesting, and they were in the 2022 protests, and they found themselves at this event. Like, I think I'm drawn to this because despite how difficult it is, it's a way to find each other. And, the Islamic Republic doesn't want us to find each other. They themselves, that's a revolutionary government that overthrew people because of the connection of grief and action. And so they want to prevent us from this.
Yeah.
And so we can find each other in times where it feels the most bleak. And that feels really meaningful. And I think also writing this, like the parts of myself that I felt so funky about, I could put somewhere. And those are the parts that people connect with.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I wrote down a lot about, for different reasons, I really related to your regret of a normal life chapter. There's just so many things you said that I've said before on interviews with people.
Yeah.
And they've said that too. Like even the idea of your name and how uncomfortable it makes you to meet someone new, because where's that from? Being a that?
Yes. Objectified
because of your name, but people mispronouncing it, which I mean it does not take any effort to figure it out. And I have a friend, Elin Justice, she's from Pikeville, Kentucky, coal country, which is already a very stereotyped place. Well, her name's spelled like Elon, but her name's Elin. Mm-hmm. And if you go to her website, it's literally in her bio how to pronounce it. It takes 5 seconds, but she had the story of when she was a kid. They got to the end of the year, like, award banquet, and they pronounced her name Elon. And her father, his name's Rusty Justice, first of all.
Iconic.
And his mother, Linda, was like the first female, like, engineer for the county in Pike County. Like, I mean, baller family. But they were, like, incensed. How could you not tell the teacher that she was wrong? And Elin's personality she's a documentary filmmaker. She's just not going to do that.
Yeah.
But there are so many things you talk about that are related to shrinking. And because of like the ways that you've coped as an adult, like unfortunately shrinking myself has become a mode of survival in adult life. I was suffering from being a stranger when you moved to Canada. I still get knots in my stomach every time I introduce myself to someone new. I mean, this is like some vulnerable shit.
Yeah.
And I know you were afraid to tell Fatemeh this because of I haven't like suffered like other people. But like, this is an internal suffering that is like really hard to shake that clearly you have not. Because you said you were embarrassed to admit in your 30s that like it's actually worse in some ways.
Well, and that line, I was suffering from being a stranger, is actually like a piece. I wrote this passage, I sent it to Fatemeh, and she put that in a comment. She was like, I was suffering from being a stranger. Like she was able to see me in a way that I couldn't access.
Well, she was drawing you out.
Yeah.
It seems to write this.
And even back and forth stuff when she would write, I would write little comments like, but yeah, I mean, that was something that was like, you're right. That is exactly like, I just felt like such a little freak.
But what's interesting is like, from my perspective, I often feel the same way. I'm like, man, there are times I've like used the language. I kind of wish I could just evaporate.
Yeah.
It would feel quite nice to be that light and not be there. That type of anonymity and just like it would have been the best possible thing. And then yet I'm like doing this and I'm always putting myself out in the world. And I think there's something to that. But like, as you said, with meeting these people and having all these beautiful moments, like for someone who wants to shrink, you wrote a book and now you're traveling internationally to share the book in front of strangers who like could judge you at literally every turn, everything you say, right? The internalized authoritarianism of like people watching you for how you speak about certain things, but even just in general, like, what if someone thinks it's bad? What if I said the wrong thing? Like, so for someone who wants to shrink so much, you put yourself out there a lot with this.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious about that contradiction where like this, I mean, it was brutal to read this because I'm like just thinking of you as a kid and all the ways in which you're like, I don't even want to exist in this space right now. And yet here you are sharing it all and laying it bare.
Well, it's interesting because I've always been like very outgoing. I love a joke. Like I've been a cheeky kid forever and also a sad girl forever. Like it's not like, oh, I spent X years being sad and then I found myself like that has always existed in me. Like I've both felt like, because it's moments, it's not all the time that I feel like a little weirdo.
Yeah.
It's like as a child, it was like when people would mispronounce my name or just the fact that we came to Canada, it was like no one looks like, even looking at old family photos where I'm putting myself behind people's bodies. Like it's, and at the same time, I'm super outgoing. So I think for me, like, like both of those are true. Some of it's even true now. Sometimes I'm like, can't like, oh God, should I really have written this? Like it's too late. It's out there.
Yeah.
Or even thinking like I cringe thinking of like, older editors who are like in their 60s, 70s. I'm like, oh God, they're all going to read about my crush and how sad I was. Like, I'm like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
But
You're
I
always
think
going to
it's
second guess anything you create.
But like, I don't know. For me, I'm like, who cares? Like, one day we're all going to die. And like, I hope that by being vulnerable, it gives other people permission to be vulnerable. Like, I just like hope we can all build on each other's work together. That's the biggest wish. And it's like, again, like what a privilege to like, this is like a high visibility book. I'm a random like Tabrizy Vancouver kid. And like have the space to put all of that, like that's a privilege.
I was thinking about this, like just the grief you feel and those weird feelings of, like Michaela said, there's joy, there's sorrow, there's relief. But it reminds me, there's this James McBride quote that I love from The Good Lord Bird. And I think you can replace disappointment with grief or fear, and it still works. But he writes that if you reach down and touch that feeling, the disappointment, the grief, the fear, you can feel God opening the doors to your heart. Mm. And this really felt like that, where like you reached down and you felt these things. Both of you did. And look what it is creating. One book doesn't just sit there. It's a living thing. I literally came 12 and a half hours here for this. That's a special thing. And you should be really proud of it. And I'm very thankful that you were willing to overcome those fears and maybe embarrassments and just say, you know what? Because both of you have a lot of work to stand on. Like you're not impressive people in the sense that like even your intelligence, what you are, the courage. I'm just sitting here in awe. And like, yeah, you're just some Tabrizy woman from Vancouver, and I'm just some guy from Southwest Ohio. But that's the power of what you've done, is you've opened up so many doors for connection. And I just want to salute you for that.
Thank you. I started, thank you. That's like really nice. I'm going to cry. Literally, how dare you? But I was I, of course, go to therapy. Who doesn't? Mm-hmm. But really in the beginning sad. Of, what'd you say? I
said you're sad.
Yeah, I'm a sad girl. It's funny too, because I was talking about, I have a friend, Aruj Aftab. She's a pretty famous Pakistani musician. She's like, does really cool soul music. And her and I were getting drinks one night. She's like, you and I are fun people. And our art is sad. Like, what is that about? And I'm like, I think it's so we can put it somewhere. Honestly, I think it's so it has a place to live that's like, it'll always be in my body. But now it actually gets its own limb to be in this book.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's, I feel grateful. And I started going, I was going to therapies just to make sure, I watch a lot of graphic imagery. How do I not bring that home with me? Like that was the impetus of going to therapy. But before I took a month leave to work on this book. And right before that, I started going to my therapist again. I was like, hey, I'm going to be writing about a lot of little Nilo stuff. I'm moving around these waters that I probably haven't touched for 30 years. Like, what do I do? And so her and I really just like moved stuff around, wrote letters to myself, like all this stuff, getting in all. And I felt sick for a week. Like after that therapy session, I was like, my throat hurts. I feel like I'm coming down with something. But it was just because I was moving these experiences around.
Yeah. And there's like a real physiological response to that kind of sharing and experience. And like, even if it's just within yourself, I mean, it's like, yeah, you wouldn't even want to leave the house, when you're going through that. It's like very intense. But I think it was really important because it seems like so much of what you struggled with as a kid, you had a loving family. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Like Vancouver's sick. Like I Googled your school and it looks like a pretty view.
Yeah.
There's like good things about life, but there's these things if you don't address them. And when I was reading that, just the recognition of like how many stories I've heard that you could write similar sentences, right? But how that then prevents the best of someone from also coming through, But I mean, at any rate, I commend the vulnerability on all counts in this book. There's a million different ways you can talk about this, but the best thing you can do is read it. And I promise literally forever to sell this book. It's not even selling. I mean, it is just sharing with people who I believe will appreciate the message. We have a group of like mostly old white women at a church doing a book club with this book in a tiny town of 4,000 people in Appalachia.
Oh my gosh.
And that's because I know that they are open to, they want to learn. They want to read stories that are outside of their own universe. They're in the mountains, and I appreciate that about them. And so I knew they'd take me up on it. But it's just so cool, what this book has meant to even people in my community. Oh. And how cool it's been to meet people and connect on even why they were looking at it on the shelf in the first place.
Yeah.
So anyway, I could go on and on.
Thank you. This is so sweet.
And I don't lie, I'm religious. I need to put that on tape, so you can trust me. But at any rate, incredible book. But I want to give you a chance to talk about your books on the bed. And I need to say, for everyone listening, I'm obviously excited for everyone that does this. In many of them, though, I have an idea.
Okay.
Of who's going to be in the stack, even specific books.
Yeah,
sometimes I can predict 3 of the 6.
Okay.
Because there's a closeness to that, whether they're an Appalachian writer and maybe they have a mutual friends or we've talked before, but I had no idea. And this is an incredible stack. So I can't wait for you to share this.
Yes. As an overachiever type A person, I am thrilled to have blasted through your expectations. Okay. So this is Rubaiyat Omar Khayyam. I found this in a secondhand bookstore in Greece 2 summers ago. Stumbled upon it, and somehow it found its way to me because it's this tiny little red book, and it's just some of his poetry.
It's beautiful.
And it was in this anarchist neighborhood in Athens. It was just so random. And the bookseller at the store, he's like, "How did you find this?" I was like, "I don't know, man. It just came to me." And Omar Khayyam was a Renaissance man in the sense that he was a poet, he was an astronomer, a mathematician, an Iranian family's dream child.
Literally,
a woman in STEM and arts. I've never since Omar Khayyam. So he's he's done amazing work. So I'm just gonna read. Dare I?
Yes.
Okay, and also just look how beautiful this is, and someone spent time in this book, right?
I want to hold that book.
And the smell of an old book.
I would sleep with it on my pillow next to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just look at that.
It's so
thing.
special. Okay, I'm gonna read you a little from it. There was a door to which I found no key. There was the veil through which I could not see. Some little talk a while of me and thee. There was, and then no more of thee and me. Earth could not answer, nor the seas that mourn, in flowering purple of their Lord forlorn, nor heaven with those eternal signs revealed and hidden by the sleeve of night and morn. Then of thee and me who works behind, the veil of universe I cried to find, a lamp to guide me through the darkness, and something then said, an understanding blind. Then to the lip of this poor earthen urn, I leaned the secret well of life to learn, and lip to lip murmured, while you live, drink, for once dead you shall never return.
Wow, what a find.
Centuries.
Damn.
This is the most Persian thing also to be let me tell you about something that happened centuries ago, because we are so tied to our past. We have such a long history. And so to find him in Athens was really cool. Because also when I went to Athens, I was walking around and I said, this reminds me of Tehran. It's close. I'm drinking a sour cherry juice box. That's very Iranian. The hills, the people, the same, different.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Something about it felt that way. And then we went to the Temple of Poseidon. It was this was razed to the ground by the Persians. I was like, oh, right. Yes, that's why it seems familiar. My bad.
Yikes.
So, yeah.
That's incredible. I love that you just found that wandering around. In fact, Kristen Miller, who did the translation of Marie-Andre Guy's book, found that in a used bookstore in Montreal, and then decided to just practice translation at a writer's retreat.
Very cool.
And then ended up being the one who actually did the translation.
So cool.
Yeah, so it's you never know what happens and what you're going to find when you just wander around. Yeah. And that's a heck of a book. Can I touch it?
Yes, please. It's so satisfying.
Oh my God.
Isn't it lovely, the texture?
Just put it in my pot. Ooh, I love looking what people write.
Yeah, and I like looking at what passages they're circling.
Yeah,
it's a little forward.
Yeah, you're getting some sort of glimpse into what this person's thinking about or dreaming about or what's resonating. Oh man, this is incredible. What a fantastic first selection. I love this. Do you want to talk anything more about like why it resonated with you or why you even picked this one up in particular?
I was just stunned to see Omar Khayyam in Athens. That felt really lovely. And I actually never much read Omar Khayyam. There is this website called Hafez on Love that's run by this old former monk.
I looked at it.
Yeah. And so I connected with Shahryar Shahryari and I asked him about why he started this website and everything. And I wrote about it. And he's like, I love Omar Khayyam. I was like, I never hear anyone say that. Like, I associate him with math. And so I don't know, like years later, it came to me. And I just thought that was so cool. And just the texture of the pages. Yeah. And do we even know when it was published?
That's a great picture, too.
Yeah, now I have to look and see because there's no published date on this. So we actually don't know.
Of course, there's not. Let's leave it a mystery.
And it ends with Tamam, like, we're done, finished.
Heck yeah.
So that's really cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. I also love sometimes when like...
This is alleged. Maybe this is him.
Wow.
Because it's giving, we're making bread. We're making clay, rather. This has got to be clay.
Out
yeah.
in the back. Oh, that's a great picture. It's yeah, like cool. even though it kind of like, it could be textbooky, like it could feel that way, but it actually works.
Yeah.
It's like it resonates with the deep time. And I think that's the thing about living in a country that's history so short. Yeah. As where I'm from, like technically if I want to know about the deep history of my region, I read things from the Cherokee.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like 45 minutes from the center of creation for the Cherokee people. Yeah. You don't read some guy that came down from like, Manville, New Jersey to start a farm in Appalachia or anything. Because there's not as much there. But as you said, you have just such a long history and connection to it. Of course, a book would reference that. But yeah, I also love when books, they're like, some people have actually chosen books that are light enough to carry. Yeah. Like, they think about that as a traveler. I don't tell them to do that, but it's nice when like, I could just think of like someone, because I let people that stay at my Airbnb take some books if they want.
Lovely.
Like if there's one that really resonates and I'm just like, it'd be nice to put that in the back pocket.
Oh, it's so perfect. Yeah. Now after you leave, I'm going to try to research the edition and learn more, which is exciting.
So that's a great start and makes a lot of sense. Yes. What do we got for number 2?
Okay, and this is in no particular order, but this is the next one in the stack is Women's Voices from Kurdistan, a selection of Kurdish poetry. And so my partner is Kurdish, and we both love poetry. I think both of us, that's like one of the things we connected on. And this is one of the poetry books he brought me. And it's Kurdish poetry from Kurdish people all over Kurdistan. So Kurdish people in Syria, Iraq, Iran, Turkey. So it's really beautiful. And I'm going to read you some of the ones that I
please do
love the most. So, and this is the young poet. Nice. She's born in 1979. Gulizer, if I'm not saying it wrong, in Diyar Kabir, northern Kurdistan. Okay, cool. Listen to how interesting this is. This is about the author. Gulizer was born in 1979 in Ahmed, which is this Kurdish name, or Diyar Kabir, northern Kurdistan. She spent several years of her childhood visiting her father, jailed for his political activities. Unable to speak Turkish as a child, she remained silent during these visits at Diyar Kabir prison, as her mother tongue was banned. She worked as a midwife in the Diyar Kabir hospital for 8 years. These years deepened her knowledge and experience of Kurdish women's condition and sufferings. She then became a teacher, a work she is still doing in her new country of residence, Sweden. All her works were published under the simple pseudonym of Gulizer. She did not want to use a surname, which is always one of the man, be it the father's or husband's. Because in Kurdish, I don't know for everywhere, but at least for Kurdish people in Iraq, the tradition is you take your father's name. Kind of similar to Arabic, like Ibn, whatever. Ibn, yeah. Okay. I love this. This is called dialect. Each leaving longs for staying. Each staying hopes for leaving. Longing and hope sit on a rug under a tent always. May those who have stayed not say the leaving is easy. May those who have left not say the staying is simple. Like I read this, and this was, I got this book in October 2023 is when I took a month. I wrote most of the book while working. This is 1 month that I took off to write.
Yeah.
And I got this book during that time. So it was really, really special.
Yeah, that's timely.
This is short. When two rivers separate, how do they part their water? She's just so good. Her soul is hidden under 40 layers of skin, like the snakes in the stories told in the quietness of summertime on rooftops. Not in the seasons, in each love and each pain, she peels away a skin and undresses. One at a time, a skin and underskin. A skin and underskin. But some loves and pains have 40 skins, all in one blow. Like, just kill me. Like,
Dang.
it's crazy.
Yeah, this is a banger.
She's amazing.
The sparseness of these poems.
Yes.
You're going to love Maria Draghi.
I can't wait.
Very similar type of, how did you just blow my mind with 12 words.
Yeah. Okay, this is The Secret, and she's dedicated it for Nadine. I entrust each of my broken parts to a woman close to me. I know women always have a chest for the safekeeping of these parts, cherished and broken. Like...
Yeah. Dang. Is it every poem like this?
So many. I mean, okay. And so you can see she speaks a different dialect of Kurdish, which is romanicized in this way. But other Kurdish speakers that will speak the Sorani dialect, it's written in the alphabet of Arabic and the alphabet that Persian uses, but it's in Kurdish. Like the different letters will have different sounds and accents. And so I'll sometimes try to read Kurdish with my Persian brain. Yeah. And my partner's like, that sounds crazy. That is not right at all. This I love. Okay, so this is Vian M. Tahir. She's Kurdish from Iraq. Very cool, very young, born in 1983. I still consider that young. Ego. Do not sell me your sea vast ego. I no longer fear waves and waterfalls. I have not an empty minute for taking deep breaths to buy your ego with. Every second of my life is clogged with your color. I try so hard to empty myself of you. I want so much to rob you of myself so you can get drunk on my cup full of love and awaken the monsters of desires with your ego. Then you will not know my madness. When will you see that I bought your ego with my mind? It's like, don't call a woman crazy. We'll write this poem about you.
Yeah. Lesson learned.
So this is amazing. And I love it because, like I would never have accessed this without my partner bringing it to me. It's so funny. We both, one of the first times we had a date, we both brought each other, it was very regional, both poetry books of our region. I was like, this is truly centuries in the making. How silly. And again, this is a testament to women, to Kurdish women. Translated by Kurdish women. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I love this.
So really cool. I'll figure out a way. I can't give you this one because it's very dear to me, but I will get a copy of this for you.
That's fine. Yeah, I don't expect it.
Okay, let's just do one more because
please do. So you clearly this is really good and you love it, so I'm all about it. I
love it. Okay, this is Trifa Doski. She was born in Duhok in Iraqi Kurdistan. Okay. This is called Symphony. It's in 4 parts. 1, hidden 2 white poems, blushed red like 2 teenage girls when the book opened. 2, cigarette. You hold me by the waist like a cigarette. You inhale me, you suck me in, you suck me all in, you fill your lungs. Come morning, you exhale me out of your nostrils of your room to the wind. 3, I'm a translucent woman like basil's leaves in your novels and in your poems. I hand you the key of the city so the book may lose its purity in your hands. Undress the book from its letters, turn it into wine. Give it to the birds so they can dance full of desire. 4, fearing that you wouldn't come, no poems sprang out of my head. They were at home, lifeless, waiting for your eyes. You came, a springtime poem bounced around me, eager to find its way to the streets of your heart. 5, I am pomegranate juice. I pour myself on your lips, you turn crazy. You become a wolf. I dry you out. You're still a wolf. How do I get you off of me?
Wow.
It's so beautiful. I I love women. I love women. I love women writers. I love when women write about desire, and and especially she's coming from absolutely a more conservative society, and to write about power and desire in this like visceral way that we're all burning with her. Like it's so cool. It's so cool. I love this.
Yeah, gosh, that's a hell of a choice.
I'm obsessed. I will get you this book. I'll find a way.
And it makes both of these make a lot of sense. And it's just like, this is so exciting because now I'm making all these discoveries, you know?
Yes.
So what do we got for number 3?
Okay, this might feel like a swerve, but I love this book. Puerto Rico, A National History by Jorel Melendez-Bedillo. I love Puerto Rico so much. Close to New York. This is the first time moving to New York is the first time I was really around, Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, because we don't have a community of people from like DR coming to Vancouver. So this is the first time I get to access this amazing community of people. I used to go to parties in Uptown and I would see hookahs. I'm like, how did hookahs end up here? This is so Iranian. So I wrote this article with my friend who's a Dominican music writer we did an oral history of the hookah and reggaeton and club culture. It's amazing. And so I wanted to know more about Puerto Rico. I've spent some time there. My favorite musician is obviously Bad Bunny, of course. And a reason that I love Bad Bunny is that he rides really hard for where he's from.
No doubt.
And this book it's amazing. It's 200 odd pages. And it's the people's history of Puerto Rico, which I think is a really beautiful framing. And it's all about from pre-contact, contact, everything that Puerto Rico has gone through. I learned so much about the mass surveillance of Puerto Ricans. The FBI's largest surveillance program of U.S. citizens was of Puerto Ricans, of Puerto Rican activists that were trying to organize for separation. That's insane. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's another one of those hidden histories, which shouldn't be hidden at all.
No.
I mean, if we want to talk about real history, that's got to be included. Because I think people still take for granted Puerto Rico's relationship with the United States.
Absolutely.
So,
and this book does an amazing job of making that clear. And it's really cool because it's written by a historian. It is so super duper fact checked. Parts of it feel really academic. But it starts with the story of Jorel's family leaving Puerto Rico, like many Puerto Ricans have done, to go to New York and to make money. And so it starts from a personal place and then it gets really historical. And my favorite part was reading about, not my favorite part, I mean, all of this is it really hits. He starts with this amazing quote from Jose Luis Gonzalez, who I've been told is the Puerto Rican writer. You got to read him. The Puerto Rican reality is chaotic in many aspects, yes, but the conscious writer's task is to cast light on the chaos, not merely to portray it. Yeah. And so reading that, I was cool. Keep going. It's just getting little signs from the universe that's yep, I picked up this book. We should keep going. Mm-hmm. And so, you even see the author's relatives.
Wow.
It starts really personal.
Yeah.
Really cool.
But I think that's why, good history is that.
Yeah.
Similar to even, talking about how you can't be, impartial to what's going on in Iran and your work. I think any good historian has to have some sort of affection.
Right.
For what they're writing about. I mean, they don't have to. That's not the language I should use. It really makes it more interesting. And there are some books that I've picked up in different regions of the country where the first 2 pages were the thing that drew me in. And it's either a personal relationship to the work or just something that happened that sparked the curiosity to then become the project. Yeah. But it has to have some sort of emotional component and attachment for me to really care. Totally. And it sounds like this is
and for me too, it's I want transparency. I want to know why you're interested in this and why did you write this? What's the person behind that? So I'm going to read a little bit. This is about hurricane. Which hurricane is this? Yes, this is about the hurricane in Puerto Rico, the storm. I could write a detailed narrative about the suffering that people went through that night. There are thousands of stories of people struggling for their lives, thousands of stories of people who failed in that struggle. I will refrain from doing so, however. The wounds from those stories are still raw, as if the hurricane never left the archipelago. And including those stories for the sake of advancing this book's narrative could end up perpetuating violence, trauma, and pain, as historian and literary scholar Saidiya Hartman has powerfully demonstrated in her work. Puerto Ricans have been dealing with hurricanes for centuries. Indigenous communities adapted to them. They harvested tubers like yucca and yams. They identified caverns to hide in during storms, which they tended to predict according to weather patterns. One of their deities was also named Huracan. Some scholars have argued that the word hurricane comes from this term. Colonial governments from both Spain and later the United States came to terms with hurricanes. The first challenge that the U.S. occupation faced in Puerto Rico was not resistance or insurrection, but the fury of San Curacao, a Category 4 hurricane in 1899 that left 3,370 people dead and caused millions in damages. Let's see. For some, disasters like Hurricane Maria can be regarded as great equalizers. Natural events do not care about class, race, or gender. While this might be true, disasters are not natural. They are natural events that cause man-made disasters. Poor and working-class people, which in Puerto Rico are often predominantly Black and brown, live in high-risk spaces with much greater chances of experiencing flooding, landslides, and other calamities. Their humble houses are often made of materials that cannot withstand such winds. While shelters are often provided by municipal governments, many return to their homes only to see what little they had accrued throughout their life destroyed in the blink of an eye. Again, there are many Puerto Ricos, and depending on which Puerto Rico they inhabited, people experienced Hurricane Maria differently. And it's amazing, and it goes through, I'll keep going, so this is interesting, because we think about, even I just went to Puerto Rico, and a friend of mine's a lawyer there. He's like, no, there's still places on the island that have not recovered from this hurricane from 2017. Thousands of buildings were damaged by Maria. Bridges collapsed, and hundreds of people went missing in the floods that swept through the archipelago. In the town of Yabucoa, lo siento, located in the main island's eastern region, 99% of the municipal buildings collapsed. Like, that's crazy. Let's just think about 99% of municipal buildings collapsing. This is a U.S. territory. Mm-hmm. A report from the RAND Corporation painted a dire picture. 100% of the power grid, 95% of cellular sites, and 43% of wastewater treatment plants were inoperable. There were more than 40,000 landslides, and more than 90% of Puerto Rico's roads were impassable. This created a health crisis as more than 95% of the population lacked drinking water for weeks, and 28% of state-run health centers that receive federal fundings were damaged. It took the central government several days before they could communicate with all of Puerto Rico's 78 municipalities. And then it goes through other things of like why we're in this place, why Puerto Rico's infrastructure has been vulnerable for decades, issues with the power grid, who's profiting off of that. So you're really learning this compounding effect of being arguably the world's oldest colony. Like it's incredible.
Man, it's just like, to be honest, I think about this. I'm like trying to remember as many history classes I took and syllabi full of history books. And then on top of that, all the other things that you just tangentially learn about. I'm like trying to think, how many Puerto Rican history books have I ever come across?
Yeah. No, this is amazing. And also he ends the book on, it's called El Apagón, which is the blackout, which is one of Bad Bunny's songs. It's a very good song. It's really all about like the power grid and all of that. It's beautiful. And he ends on Bad Bunny, and he ends on Bad Bunny's lyrics.
Incredible.
Like, it's
incredible.
I'm just going to read a little bit of this. I'm so sorry. It's just so good.
Yeah.
Many young people identified as the Yo no me dejo generation during the 2019 summer protests. This term was coined by the rap and reggaeton artist Bad Bunny in a song with fellow artists Residente and Ile released during the protests. Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, known as Bad Bunny, was a supermarket grocery bagger before becoming a global superstar. In 2022, he announced 3 new concerts in Puerto Rico with tickets sold only in person. Parts of the San Juan metropolitan area were shut down due to the massive numbers of people camping out. His music has come to define a generation, not only in Puerto Rico, but globally. Unlike the chauvinistic and macho ethos that dominated the reggaeton music genre, Bad Bunny represented a queer aesthetic with his brightly colored outfits, painted nails, and gender-bending performances. In Un Verano Sin Ti, his fourth solo studio album, Bad Bunny once again topped the charts and broke streaming records. One track, El Apagón, The Power Outage, became an immediate anthem in the archipelago. The upbeat tempo is accompanied by a crowd shouting, Puerto Rico está bien cabrón. Puerto Rico is fucking awesome, or Puerto Rico is really hard, depending how you interpret it. As the title notes, besides the festive tone, the song is also a reminder of the dire reality lived by many in the archipelago. Towards the end of the song, Gabriela Berlingini sings, Yo no me quiero ir de aquí. I don't want to leave here. I don't want to leave here. They can go. They can go. This is my beach. This is my sun. This is my land. This is me.
Wow.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
And so this amazing historian worked with Bad Bunny on his latest album, Debí Tirar Más Fotos, and did if you go on YouTube, each album has each song is a visualizer that's about Puerto Rican history, and he collaborated. So it's just
That's awesome. Wow, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Dang. That's a great swerve. Very nicely done.
Okay, great.
Okay,
yeah.
Another one that I was not expecting, but I'm very curious because of my own interest in this. So
yes. Okay. So this is another swerve, and this is an anthology of the experiences of Hiroshima atomic bomb victims. Now, I got this in Hiroshima. I went last year in January. I was in Japan for 10 days. And when I was a kid, probably grade 2 or grade 3, I was reading what I thought was historical fiction about Hiroshima and the atomic bomb. And I was reading the story about this little girl who got really, really sick. And her parents didn't want to tell her that she was dying of radiation. And so they got her this beautiful red kimono, and she was in the hospital, and she was just folding cranes to, each crane is a wish to feel better. And by the end of it, she was so sick that she used a needle or little straws to fold. So this was a very formative thing to read. And interestingly, my nephew, who's now in grade 10 in Canada, but he told me, I'm reading historical fiction about Hiroshima. I was like, that's so cool. Wow. So this was something I was really affected by when I went to Hiroshima. It's wild to go there. It is such a beautiful city. People are biking around, so vibrant. You can take ferries to little islands. There's so much life. And I went to, where the dome is, where it was dropped. I'm like, I cannot, just being there, it feels crazy. And seeing all the cranes that people make out of origami, and it's just, it's very moving and emotional. So I went to the museum, and the first floor is okay, they're this part's heavy, and it's just quiet. And you're looking at all the documentation and photos and experiences, and it's crazy. And I was there with my partner, and I left him. I was like, I will see you later. And I'm going through the museum, and I'm just having, it's just so, it's so affecting. And then the end of the exhibit is the story of this little girl who was folding paper crane. And I was like, wait.
Oh my God.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, it was the same thing. Red kimono. And I was like, okay, maybe this was many children. I just really felt it. Yeah. So I felt this is crazy. I was like, wait, I read this as a child. I guess what I read was maybe nonfiction. It was written for children. I don't know. So that felt crazy. I was like, I did not know the story that I read was real.
What a moment.
Yeah. And again, not to harp on journalism and how important it is, but this is why
you should harp on it.
I'm harping on it.
I'm pro-journalist.
Thank
clearly.
you. This is why documentation matters. Going through this museum, and a lot of these survivors are now there's very few survivors left. Many survivors of the attack in Hiroshima didn't come out for years and say that they experienced it because there was such a stigma. There's just so many layers, and it's this is why documentation is important. This is why remembering the past is important and being connected to it.
Yeah, and especially with a topic. I mean, all of World War II.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But especially in the Pacific, and what we've chosen to ignore, and this is stateside, right? But with I learned from a friend of mine at Brown University about 2 internment camps.
Yeah.
in the Arkansas Delta. And so I went to these pretty tiny memorials, given the fact that it was tens of thousands of Japanese prisoners that lived and died there. And now it's just like mostly farmland. It does make me chuckle, but there is a hibachi food truck in a gravel parking lot that I did eat after going to
one. Was it good?
Mm-hmm. And it was like $10 for this huge.
Oh my God.
thing. But the point is, like, talking about documentation, there is in the old train depot, a museum that has schoolwork from the kids.
Wow.
All of these artifacts of what happened there, because especially for the second memorial in Jerome, dude, if you didn't know it was there, it's just on some white family's farmland. And then there's one smokestack from a building that is gone in the field that you drive by. And if you didn't know that was part of the concentration camp, then, you know, so it's like, but thank God that people saved all of that. Cause I got to go in this, and they put like in a like VCR in this old TV, you know, and show all of this history that is mostly ignored. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a crazy story though, like the circle there of getting back to that child.
Oh gosh. Like you know, this is a small anthology of what, 70-ish pages. I read this and just started sobbing under the covers. Like especially when you're like, oh, I was 9 years old at the time of this. Mm-hmm. This one I found really affecting. The title, I won't read all of it, but I want to tell the young about the importance of peace. Mitsue Utsunomiya, 14 years old at the time of the war. When I was a 5th grade elementary school student, the Greater East Asia War began. At that time, I did not know what the government did. I just went along with what they ordered me. We won't ask for anything until we win. With this national slogan, I planted potatoes in the schoolyard as a first-year junior high school student and did volunteer labor when I was a second-year student. As almost all of the men went to war, the people who remained in the farmhouses were only the elderly people, women and children. This is why I had to do volunteer labor. And then when I became a third-year junior high school student, I was mobilized to a factory for making weapons. In those days, our weapon was the bamboo spear. U.S. had developed the atomic bomb, so there was a huge difference in military force between Japan, and U.S. air raid alerts were issued night and day. Alerts and cancellations were repeated over and over again. We had also been constantly in and out of air raid shelters every time an alert was given. We gathered in place and we covered the windows and light bulbs with something like black curtains because during night air raids, enemy planes launched concentrated attacks on places with lights on. This is the so-called blackout. Regarding meals, all food was rationed. Even if there were goods or foods in shops, we could not buy them. What were rationed to us were mostly sweet potato, pumpkin, Japanese radish, potato, and corns, and rice, which we could only get a handful. Of course, as we could not support our family with it, we also made rice soup to increase the volume to provide meals for the family. There was no such thing as a snack during the war. We go to this. On the night of August 6th, again, this person was how old during the time? 14. On the night of August 6th, we could see that Hiroshima City over the mountain was burning red, as if the flames almost tried to scorch the sky. On the following day, the 7th, the city was still burning. On the 9th, I heard that we could go back to the city. I walked going there again. On the way to the city, the 2 bridges we had to cross had collapsed. On the road, there were dead bodies sitting and some people with burnt clothes and faces unrecognizable, if they were men or women dying one after another. At that time, I seemed to have lost all sense of feeling and started thinking that this was a natural situation. When I got to my house at last, I saw it leaned, every window pane broken. The mud wall was also crumbling, and there was hardly anywhere to put my feet down. My little brother's head was greatly swollen up. His eyes got injured, and fluid was oozing from the eye. On the day of the bombing, he was feeding the chicken we had reared before he went to school. He was exposed to radiation on the right side of his body, and it was totally burned. Though he narrowly escaped death during his elementary school, junior high, and high school days, he was bullied for his keloid. As a result, his life was greatly traumatic. After the war, I worked for ABCC, A-Bomb Casualty Commission, organized by the U.S., and conducted a follow-up survey on those who were victims of the atomic bomb. However, looking back, I'm wondering if it was really good to do this survey. Although what the US did was a really hateful thing, people who did this were part of the top echelon, and I do not necessarily hate all Americans. I hate those who developed the atomic bomb and made the decision to drop it on Japan. Several years ago, I saw the exhibition panels in the Atomic Bombs and War exhibition, and knew that in the South battlefields of Southeast Asia, many Japanese soldiers died of hunger because food did not arrive from Japan, and some died of contracting infectious diseases while in combat action. I could not control my anger over this. As many as 3,200,000 precious human lives were treated like dogs. I have 2 sons, and I made a firm decision not to have them go to war, whatever cost that'll make. Then I resolved to talk about my experience of the atomic bomb to school children in Hiroshima and to students on a field trip from other prefectures. This is her. Since I have had a miserable experience in the war and after the war, now I'm so glad to see lively school children and students visiting the Peace Memorial Park on school trips as part of the peace education. When I heard the cheerful voices of children swearing in front of the statue of A-bomb children in the Peace Memorial Park, I looked at them from afar and shed my tears. After I shared my story to the children visiting the Peace Memorial Park, they all gave me a heartwarming response. We will oppose war, definitely. We won't allow for the making of nuclear weapons. At that time, I was very delighted, and I felt it was worth telling my story. In order to not have the future generation experience my days during the war, there is nothing as important as education. I want them to take action and speak their minds if they felt something was wrong, so as to not get them involved with the war. How important peace is and how important opposition against war is, especially for me as a Japanese who is a victim of the atomic bomb. I won't make any compromises on this. This is a lesson for the future generations. Therefore, I want the young to listen to our experiences carefully and to pass them down.
Amen.
It's wild. Yeah. I mean, this is so important.
It's inconceivable on the other side of this, for most Americans to understand, like, just like with the internment camps, these were not just like the boats were bombing.
Yeah.
Now, who's innocent and who's guilty isn't just who's getting killed. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's why oral history, though, is really important. Yeah. To help people understand what people went through and humanize it. Because a lot of, like, me growing up in white Ohio was Japanese were bad. Mm-hmm. Pearl Harbor means drop bomb. I mean, literally was that simple. So it wasn't until taking a World War II in the Pacific class that I even read from the perspective of a Japanese person. That's crazy. Yeah. 20 years old.
Yeah.
And I had to, like, it was in the class.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and that's, I love what she says there. Like, that's the whole point of knowledge. It has to be transmitted, and it has to mean something for the future, or else it's for what, And
I love that she, even in her, I don't even know how you process experiencing this and being a survivor of this. Yeah. I hope none of us know that. But her, even in that moment, saying, I knew it wasn't all Americans. It's this top echelon of people. Like, being able to separate that out and still give humanity to people that did, whose government did something unspeakable.
Yeah. And often when that's not returned.
Yes.
So that's like that's a powerful moment. Gosh, that's incredible, though. Like, the whole long story of you getting there and then having this book. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's the first of its kind in all of the books on the bed. So, same with Puerto Rico. So yeah, this is good.
Yay.
Really interested in this one.
Yeah. Have you read it?
Yes. Tell me about.
Okay. So I was going to Italy. I was going to Italy. Had we sold the proposal yet? I think we had sold the proposal of time. So I was thinking about writing, and a friend of mine said, you should read this. It has a really good afterword that you're going to love, which it's like only a nerd, only a book nerd's like, this afterword goes like, crazy. And so this is my first time reading Natalia Ginzburg. For the uninitiated, she's very interesting. She was part of the Communist Party, and then she was an independent. Mm-hmm. She comes from an anti-fascist family. I think her mother is Catholic, her father's Jewish, or it could be the other way around. She has both religions in her family, and her family would host these anti-fascist salons in Turin. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And so she was living during this moment of great upheaval. Like, she's writing about Mussolini and his rise and what that meant. And this book I really liked it because it's just, my Italian friend was like, how are you reading this in translation? Because this book, Family Lexicon, is all about the weird little language you have with your family and these like weird little stories and like these intricacies. And she's like, I don't even know. I can't even imagine in English. Her parents were like shocked that I was reading this. They're like, Natalia Ginzburg? Like, you're not reading Elena Ferrante? I was like, well, I really want to read Natalia. And so I loved this book. And I was just going by myself in Italy and just reading this book constantly.
That's a great way to travel.
And also Italy, I think, is a weird place to travel alone because it's such a family-oriented place. Any beach I'd go to, it's a couple or a family. Huh. And when I was by myself, people always looked at me weird. Like, I was having dinner by myself. And I was in like, like a beach town, like 2 hours south of Rome on the train. Like, I wasn't in like fancy pantsy. I was in like random parts of Italy. And it was strange to be a woman alone reading. People felt weird about that. That's a good point. And I think I was probably like reading Italian in context. I was like, I don't speak any Italian. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Mi dispiace. I don't speak any Italian. Okay. So this is kind of, I think this will give you, I think, a flavor of the book, and I just think it's so funny. My parents had 5 children. We now live in different cities, some of us in foreign countries, and we don't write to each other often. When we do meet up, it can be indifferent or distracted. But for us, it just takes one word. It takes one word, one sentence, one of the old ones from our childhood, heard and repeated countless times. All it takes is for one of us to say, we haven't come to Bergamo on a military campaign, or sulfuric acid stinks of fart, and we immediately fall back into our old relationships, our childhood, our youth, all inextricably linked to those words and phrases. If my siblings and I were to find ourselves in a dark cave or among millions of people, just one of those phrases or words would immediately allow us to recognize each other. Those phrases are our Latin, the dictionary of our past. They're like Egyptian or Assyrio-Babylonian hieroglyphics, evidence of a vital core that has ceased to exist but that lives on in its text, saved from the flurry of the waters, the corrosion of time. Those phrases are the basis of our family unity and will persist as long as we are in the world, recreated and revived in disparate places on the earth whenever one of us says, "Most eminent Signora Lipman," and we immediately hear my father's impatient voice ringing in our ears, "Enough of that story. I've heard it far too many times already." So just this you're just dropped into a kooky family dynamic, and this kooky family dynamic that she writes about in such an observational way. She's just an eye looking all around the room. All of these crazy things are happening. People are being arrested for distributing communist literature. Her brothers run away. Her own husband is tortured and killed by Mussolini's forces. And when it comes to her trauma, she doesn't write about it at all. Oh, then I just didn't see him again. It's fascinating the way she writes.
So one of the first interviews I ever did for Books on the Bed, someone chose a different Natalia Ginzburg book. And I'm blanking on the title right now. But even in what she read and described, I was like, what a fucking weird writer.
Yeah.
And I was gripped by it, I was, cool. and this person who was sharing it, she's a weirdo and very brilliant. And so I would read I would take any recommendation from her. Shout out Catherine Savage in Minnesota. But it was one of those things where I was like, oh, this seems like someone I typically wouldn't read. But when you have someone else to describe it, you're like, oh, that actually sounds quite intriguing. Let me dive into that mind.
Yeah.
Or that family.
Yeah.
That's such an interesting thing to read while traveling alone in a foreign country. I mean, the vibes got to be that's being on the beach and that's not really
reading anti-fascist literature. It's not beach read.
It's not that's not going to be on Reese Witherspoon's reading list either. Not to knock Reese Witherspoon, but I'm glad you brought this up because I think a lot of people would like reading Natalia Ginzburg if they gave it a chance.
And a little bio of her because she's interesting.
Yeah.
Born Natalia Levi in Palermo, Sicily, the daughter of a Jewish biologist father and a Catholic mother. Right, I flipped that around. She grew up in Turin in a household that was a salon for anti-fascist activists, intellectuals, and artists, and published her first short stories at the age of 18. She would go on to become one of the most important and widely taught writers in Italy, taking up themes of oppression, family, and social change. One of my really good friends is Italian. She's Roman. I was like, how come, like, is everyone reading Natalia Ginzburg? She goes, no, after Elena Ferrante is the writer people read now.
That makes sense.
In school. And yeah, so it's really interesting. And let me read you the afterword, which does drop a bomb.
We have to.
This is why.
We have to know.
Because she writes so much about being in this family and all this upheaval is happening. And she's like, I'm kind of just an ordinary person, which is how I feel about Iran. I'm kind of like, I'm in this moment. I'm a little Forrest Gump. Like I'm accidentally in all these historical, and all these things are happening, but they're not necessarily happening to me, but I'm on the ride. And like, how does that feel? And this is written by Peg Boyers, who's lovely. And I read her afterward and I emailed her. I was like, hi.
Oh, that's so great.
I'm obsessed with you. Okay. In the essay Childhood, Ginsburg says about her family, we were nothing, neither rich nor poor, Catholic nor Jewish. In that essay, she characterizes her girlish apprehension of not fitting into any available category as a source of anguish, though in later years, she came to prize this nothingness as a positive force, noting in her education a certain incoherence, the absence of any defining or comprehensive ideology. She was forced to fling herself into the task of clarifying for herself and her readers every issue that came her way, from abortion to the way we bring up children and mourn our dead. Ginsburg often appears, whether in fiction or in her essays, to be considering her subjects for the first time with almost childlike freshness, a result perhaps of never having had any reliable guideposts or authoritative sources drummed into her. No ideology, no handy prefabricated formulas to consult. She starts at zero, sees what is before her, and gets to work. To read Family Lexicon is to be reminded again and again of Ginsburg's will to revisit the past, not to find answers to questions, but to furnish an alternative to carelessness, forgetting, and indifference. Ginsburg didn't know how to be uplifting or optimistic, but she clung to the hope that human beings might make something of their lives by being true. True as an honest, loyal, faithful resistance to nullity.
Fuck me.
Peg.
What?
Peg Boyers. That afterward does go on.
Email,
I know. I will connect you. Like, yeah.
Wow. You know, that is, that's something. And important to think about. I mean, I love how she ends that. Mm-hmm. Because I think I have a lot of people that I admire. They're the kind of person who don't rely on technically anything to guide them. Yeah. Aside from just what they see and what they've lived. And, you know, I've always had like a hard time. I think I did when I was younger. I thought I had to have something that was easy to explain to guide me. And it was all of these people that made me realize I don't need that at all. Mm. You know, like I just need to live and to decide for myself. And that comes at a cost though, in many ways. Oh yeah. Because there's so many folks that base almost every decision on a set of rules that they could say, this is why I did this. Or, you know, these are the things that keep me together, if you want to put it that way. You know, this is how I'm formed. Mm-hmm. And so it's so nice to have people who don't have any form, but they still live a hell of a life and help you do the same. But Jesus, yeah, that was an awesome. I'm glad you did that.
Boyers with the afterward.
Shouts out to your friend too for knowing that you would love that.
My friend Jumana, she knew.
That's a good friend.
Yeah, and she's like, you're going to like this new translation. It just came out from the New York Review of Books. I was like, this is such a specific rec. But no, this was amazing, and it really helped me feel like less like, oh, do I have permission to write such a political story about Iran? Because I have so much privilege, and I'm here, and I didn't grow up with any of this in my family. Like, do I have permission? And like actually reading through Natalia, like not only do I have permission, but like what a gift to not have that experience, because it allows you to make your own path. Like, again, I love the line. She sees what's before her and she gets to work. Like,
that is,
I feel like that's my vibe.
Like you could have that on like a, you know, like in And I always think of the stupid slogans they put in like basketball locker rooms or whatever, and they could have like bangers.
Yeah.
And they just choose the dumbest stuff. But that would be a hell of a thing to like paint on a wall, you know? Like if you're gonna touch it when you walk out the door every day, that's something to remember. Yeah. Like I have something, a painting in particular that serves as that for me. Mm-hmm. And so like I think about that sometimes, just like what are like the simple ways for me to remind myself of how to live well. Yeah. And in my own way. Yeah. You know, because it's tiresome to try to be like everybody else. Totally. And especially if you don't identify with any of these other things, like what do you make of that? And for you though, to get to work. Yeah. I mean, you have to do it. You can't half-ass it. Yeah. So that's like nice thing to revisit.
I was reading it as I was thinking about the book and writing, and I was like, message heard, message received, Natalia. I will get to work. Like
some things are just meant to be right in front of you at a certain point, and that seems like a timely message. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm so glad you brought that in.
I hope you read it.
One more.
Okay.
And I'm very excited about this. Tell us about it.
Okay, this is a fantastic book called They Said They Wanted Revolution, a Memoir of My Parents by my good friend, Neda Tului Semnani. Neda is my khale. She's my aunt. She helped us a lot in the editing of our book, too. She's wonderful. She wrote this book about her parents. It is not a spoiler because it's on the back of the book, but her parents were both students at Berkeley. They were in the Iranian Students Association. And when the revolution happened, they were in these like leftist Marxist groups. When the revolution happened, they went back to Iran for the revolution, and these groups didn't win out. So it's a story of being the daughter of revolutionaries and what that means. Neither of her parents are alive anymore. And I think this is the type, again, not a spoiler, it's like in the very beginning. Yeah. But I think this is the type of book that you can write when they're not here. And yeah, Neda, her father was executed by the regime. She was a child when this was happening. Her family then had to escape Iran on foot to Turkey. And like I met Neda, I knew her for years, and I read part of, she wrote something in LitHub that was like an advance of this book. I was like, I had no idea. So this book is a lot about like memory and trauma, and she goes and she interviews the ex-girlfriend of her dad, and she said to Neda, he always told me he'd die for the cause. And Neda was like, so why did he ever have me? Like, oh my God. It's crazy. And she gets her father's, like prison records and the last letter before the execution. Like it's, and she's a great journalist. So she talks about the history. Wow. And when I read this and I finished it, I was sobbing, and I called Neda and I was like, and this is way before I wrote my book. I was like, Neda, the Iranian canon is closed. Like, you closed the canon. I don't think any Iranian ever needs to write a book again. It's done. Like, I said that to her. And I really felt it in that moment.
Oh, trust me. We're both big feelings readers, it seems. Yeah. So, like, I get it. Yeah. Shut it down.
And so much of it is good. But when we talk about the names, I'm going to take us to a naming and lineage place. And so as background, Iranians, under the Shah's father, so the last Shah, his father, the first Pahlavi, that's when Iranians got birth certificates, last names, birth dates, like things became westernized in that sense. So people had to choose their names. I choose to believe that my grandfather decided our name early on his trek across the rocky desert terrain. The air was bone dry. It whipped moisture from his brow. Dust and sand became lodged in his hair, the corners of his eyes and the edges of his teeth. He was still a boy, grieving for his father and afraid of what was to come for his mother, his sisters, and himself. The fate of the family weighed on him as he moved steadily towards a city that must have felt impossibly far. So far, it may as well have been another world. I can't know how many days he walked or whether he was able to catch a ride with those who were moving in his direction, but I hope he had help as he went along. I hope he was more excited than afraid. It was before his muscles became used to the exercise, as his fair skin began to burn under the relentless glare of the sun, that I imagined my grandfather chose our name. He was a thoughtful and deliberate soul. He may have spent days playing with various possibilities. He felt each syllable as it moved over the surface of his tongue. He considered them. Maybe he went back and forth between several names. As he walked, he could have strung the names together, turned them into a rhyme to test the cadence, Choosing may have helped ward off the tedium of walking, constantly walking, through the rough-hewn and neutral-colored landscape. Maybe the act served as balm to the feeling of moving, placing one foot in front of the other over and over again without the relief of arrival. Common sense says my grandfather would have begun his days early while it was cool and the sky still dark. Desert mornings are miraculous. The light expands across the beige and muted blue tones, and in a sweep of blues, pinks, and violets heralds the dawn. For a moment, every living surface quivers under droplets of dew. The sky ebbs from inky blue to azure, then an explosion of peaches and reds and ecstatic yellows. The morning celebrates the whole of the desert, the subtle greens and golds, the splashes of white and indigo. The night, which was dark, cold, and lonely, fades away. In its place is a celebration of having persevered. But the respite between the cold night and the hot day is brief. My grandfather could have seen the jagged mountaintops surrounding him and listened to the sounds of the desert as they alternately swelled and calmed. His back would have begun to warm as if there were a hand pressed against him, urging him westward. He chose the name Tului of sunrise and attached it to Semnani, the city of Semnan. We are a clan born of the sunrise over Semnan, the city where his family started. Our history is contained in these words. Our name holds poems, journey, elation, and grief. When I say it, I am telling the story of our ancestors. When my grandfather chose it, we began to be what he would dream of, a clan of wanderers and seekers, determined dreamers moving through a too real world. In America, the name my grandfather gifted us has been broken into pieces. Some of us claim the first half, Tului, and others the second, Semnani. I try to be the hyphen in my name and hold together both halves. I try to hold the stories. I know. I sobbed. I know. No, you're taking this book, actually. That's yours. You're taking it.
No.
I listen. Ned, as a friend, I like love to contribute to her book sales for the rest of my life. Please take it. You have to.
I'm not going to sleep tonight. What the fuck?
I know.
Why would you do this to me?
Well, you did this, and thus...
Oh,
literally,
God.
the canon was closed when she wrote this. I was like, no more writing from Iranians. We have experienced it all. She's an incredible writer and even better human.